You are listening to the 312 Squadron podcast. My name is Nick Sperry.
And I'm Andrew Kouba.
And I'm Samuel Graebner.
Hey, Sam, you're we got a new guy here. What's up, Sam?
Hello. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have a couple of locals that were join me at Adepticon, who can just speak about their experience. A lot to talk about. Worlds / Adepticon just happened. We're fresh off of it on the latter ed of our recovery mode here. It's a lot of X-Wing, a lot of gaming, a lot of being on our feet for days on end, having a good time. How has your recovery been for you guys? Have you guys even thought about X-Wing, or is it the only thing on your mind because you've played so much?
Well, I managed to avoid thinking about X-Wing for most of Sunday afternoon and the few days after that. This is the first time I've had a chance to sit down and go through Worlds data and actually look at some of the insights. So I'm ready to go, but I definitely had to take a few days to just like decompress.
I have not recovered. I've been just list building. I've been so excited about the game. I felt actually like regenerated or reinvigorated after I've gotten home.
Reinvigorated, all the rated.
Rejuvenated, yeah. Refreshed. No, I've been super excited. I've been theory crafting, and I've been going back, watching all the streams for all the games I missed to get caught up on it, digging into the data, and it's been so much fun.
Yeah, it's been interesting for me because I've had like Adepticon went from being like what I expected it to being like my much needed distraction. A lot of you guys now know, but some of you maybe don't know. When you listen to this, you will know that my new car that I've only had for a few months broke down on the interstate on the way to Adepticon on Saturday morning.
Yeah,
And
so brutal.
The engine was smoking and every light was turned on. I had to get it towed. Everyone was going 80 past me, just like anybody that would pass my car, I was like, it would shake violently, just the vibrations, a lot of semi trucks and everything. And that was a really crappy experience. And so
Yeah.
I showed up to the con and got shout out to Peter, one of our locals who now lives in the burbs. He rescued me, picked me up, and took me to the convention. And thanks to you all hanging out with you guys specifically, but that the entire community, I was able to just kind of really needed the decompressor and play in the side events and just have a good time. And so in a way, the convention kind of saved me because I would have not been in a very good mental place with the stress and just the distraction of like, oh my God, how much, what am I going to do with this car? I got to have it repaired. Who knows what's wrong with it? And it's going to be a very expensive repair. The engine is damaged. The coolant pump broke. There were a lot of problems because of a previous issue with the owner of the car before I bought it. They had their car serviced, but the coolant hose was not clamped to the engine properly, and so it broke because of that. It just took too long past my warranty conveniently for it to happen. So I'm paying dearly for a mistake that wasn't necessarily my fault, obviously, for like close to $4,000. But I just came fresh off our live streaming X-Wing, 2 games in Nickel City X-Wing Draft League. We decided to do a subathon with giving away, everything, cards, dial covers, and we got so many donations. Stephen Weiland of the Team USA of the XTC, champions of the XTC this year, matched up to $500 in donations as well on his end.
What a nice guy.
What a nice guy. And
amazing.
everybody that donated
incredible guy.
and subscribes, it really helps because it's just really helps soften the blow of having to take care of this thing. We've used this car for all the events we've streamed to get the equipment to where it needs to go. It's just been a vital part of that, and you guys have helped me get it back and not take a massive hit to my bank account. So it really means a lot. So I just wanted to shout that out and put that my recovery has been interesting because I'm still trying to figure out exactly when I'm getting this car back and what the timeline is. But I feel a little
once
less stressed
again,
out about it.
The X-Wing community is one of the greatest communities out there.
They come through. It's true.
So let's talk about Adepticon in general, our experience, actually at the event, not on the way to the event. Like in my case, we won't be talking about that much more. The side events, the people, the community swag, there was so much of that. What stood out to you guys? Sam, I'll start with you. How was you played in the LCQ, so you played early, like you played Thursday. What was that like? And is this your first Adepticon It is, right?
So yes, so this was my first Adepticon, first Worlds, first major X-wing tournament. I showed up and I played every day. It was a blast. I came Thursday for the LCQ. Did not do as well as I wanted to do, unfortunately. But we got into the unconventional warfare league, got into the Sunday Swiss side events, and just gamed, just played X-wing all weekend. It was amazing. Shout out to Mike from Virginia. Didn't get your last name, but had a good time playing some games with you. Played against a fellow named Dale. Had good games with some locals. Generally, just gamed my brain out. It was great.
You got a lot of personal one-on-one time with Jendon, didn't you?
I did. I had a lot of Jendon time.
Yeah, we'll talk about Jendon in a bit because that obviously stood out and cut as well. Um, so Andrew, how about you?
Yeah, I would say meeting all of the people is the number one thing that stood out to me. Met so many cool people from all over the world, which was absolutely wonderful. It was so great meeting like Louis from the UK. It was really great meeting Brady and Dwight from Canada and playing a couple games with them. And it was also just great meeting any of the fans that came up and talked to us for throughout the whole weekend. They're just I apologize if I don't name you here, but like so too many to name. And it was just also great seeing all of our friends that we see at these tournaments come back around too, and being able to just say hi and chat with them and hang out with them has been just one of the most rewarding things about X-Wing and Worlds. Someone had mentioned that it felt like a big family reunion, and I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. The X-Wing community is like a second family. I mean, you guys have become a good part of. I mean, it's interesting when when your life evolves and your friends or friend groups changes. Like all the way you're going from college, you used to have a ton of friends, and then it evolves. You lose some friends, people enter. But like with X-Wing, it's like one of the most natural ways that I've been able to like gain friendships, and it's like very close friends.
Hmm.
Andrew, you and I have been close friends for several years now because of X-Wing.
Yeah.
It's just so weird to think about that. And Sam, you're all right. You know, you're on the
No,
road
I was.
too.
Hey, you know what? Samuel was one of the reasons why I had the list I did for the LCQ. Couldn't have done it without him.
Yeah, we. I like to refer to it as a community in a can. Like
Yeah.
you get wherever you go, you've got a shared language with folks, and you can just step right up and start playing.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it's great. I was like over so many people came up to Andrew and I and gave us just really nice kind words about how much they appreciate the content in the podcast and that and for a while obviously I know that people listen to this podcast. I just know that, but sometimes you're like, do people actually listen to this, like just the back of your head? And then you have all these people like, oh, I love the cast, I love the podcast. You're like, oh my gosh, like wow. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Like people from all over the world are telling us that they listen to our podcast and watch our live streams, and
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Because I mean, we see the numbers of who listens or how many downloads it gets, but then when you start putting faces to it, it's like, oh wow, yeah, it's incredible. All these people out here. Honestly, so I saw someone had written their Discord name on the back of their badge, and I was like, that is
Yeah.
a really
Oh,
good
that's
move.
super
I'm
clever.
gonna be doing that next time because there's so many
Yeah.
people who like I know by their Discord names, but not like their actual names in person.
Yeah. um Do you guys want to dive into the X-Wing side and we can kind of just like talk about, everything we noticed with
Absolutely.
the side
Let's
events and
do it.
everything? I'll ease into talking about the data from like the LCQ and Worlds, obviously, but just um, so there were a lot of interesting, cool X-wing side events. I just played in unconventional warfare, which was like it was like a $60
Yeah.
buy-in. You got to play from day one that you could play all the way to the last day on Sunday, and you could get up to 24 tickets, price tickets each day for playing your 4 games, six
And
tickets a game.
and each day it unlocked you got a card, so if you built your
Yeah.
list a certain way you got to unlock extra abilities for your ships.
Yeah, which was cool. A dynamic way to play the game
Super
that's
cool.
a little additive, but not too, not fundamentally different from how we play
No.
it already. There was also Worlds Prep. on Thursday, happening at the same time as the last chance qualifier, and then there was duos kind of, and Sunday Swiss kind of added events duos. You could actually have a teammate, and you built a smaller list. Each person controlled a couple of 1 to 2 ships, and that seemed like
Yeah,
a lot of
nine
fun.
points each. But you could go cross faction with your teammate.
which seemed really fascinating. Like, I'm sure
Yes.
there was a ton of combos that people made, or just in interactions that came up that probably have
Oh
never come
yeah.
up in a game of X-wing before. That the duos event seemed like it was pretty cool.
Yeah, lots of people were excited to play in that. They actually had a huge wait list for the doubles event, and they at the last minute were able to open up some tables to bring some of those people in as well.
Yeah, I was really, it was very laxed and fun. And honestly, even though I'm a competitive player, I really, really enjoyed just like embracing the attitude and the vibe of just playing X-Wing surrounded by a bunch of gamers and getting tickets. And you could get, honestly, the dice I have for those watching live. Like I have, some of them in front of me, like these champagne dice. There was these new marble dice that resembled the corset dice, but with these cool etched markings, like these dark kind of almost streaky markings on them.
And
Alt
I
art
mean, yeah,
cards.
they're a lot brighter too. The marble
Yeah.
dice, everyone was kind of, I think, felt like they were off them at first, but they've really grown on me. I like them a lot.
Yeah, they have this sheen to them, but it's one of those things where you have to kind of tell somebody or explain it to them, like, "Hey, this is what's different," and then you'll notice. But I
Hmm.
don't think if somebody would think like at first glance I was playing with corset dice until they took a closer look or compared corset dice to them because the tint of them is different in terms of the shade
Yeah,
of green and red, a little slight differences, but it's certainly at first glance it doesn't look.
I was super excited to get the sparkly dice. I got as many
yeah.
as I could get my hands on,
Yeah.
and I'm excited to just roll them and watch them sparkle. They look so good.
Yeah. Andrew and I got teased with them at LVO. We got them
I
as
know.
participation prizes. If you played all your
Right.
games, you got a pair of them. So I was like, "Ooh, I really want more of these."
Yep.
I they were and for those of you that don't know, these dice were unreleased 2020 Worlds dice, and because of the FFG AMG handover, AMG didn't have access to the FFG
Yeah.
goods for years. And so I was like, maybe this is just leftover supply. I doubt we're going to get more of these. And boom, they were able to give them out at Worlds and in droves, like tons and tons of them, buckets of them.
Yeah.
It was
I
they're
was
awesome.
super excited to see them at Worlds,
Yeah, they're a great part of the prize wall. I
and
will
everyone
say,
else was too.
before getting into the data, that when I was doing kind of man on the street interviews with folks, and one of something that came up multiple times was if I asked the question, if you could add or one thing to the game of X-Wing um in 2024, what would it be? And they said better prizes, and they were referring to Worlds, which obviously the next Worlds won't be till next year.
Hmm.
But even though we had a prize wall with some pretty sweet stuff like these dice that we love, I started to think about it and I realized that the participation prizes for Swiss last Worlds was like, not only was there a prize wall, but there was like full punch board, cardboard, like
Yes.
custom stuff that
Hmm.
the only thing you got for Swiss for this year was a standardized Soontir Fell from Battle Over Endor with a misprinted stamp on the back.
Yeah.
So obviously different. I think it's a noticeable difference in terms of just like it is weird to kind of bust your ass to win a Worlds invite. Is lucky enough in my case to actually be able to win one. And I'm not somebody that's like foaming at the mouth for participation prizes for something like this. But when you take a step back and look at it, it is a little disappointing because I missed out on that last year. It would have been cool to get some cardboard this year.
Hmm.
Instead, we got a misprinted card. So it's like I do think that maybe there could have been a little bit of a better attempt to supplement all the people that showed up, and we're talking hundreds and hundreds of people to play in this event, to give them a little bit more than a Soontir Fell card.
Yeah.
That's just I agreed with the people
Last
that
year, I
pushed.
do remember. I think we also got last year. We did get a misprinted ion cannon turret card as well.
It was an ion cannon. It was an ion cannon card, but it was the ion cannon turret artwork and
Right.
full art, and was
Yes.
very confusing because everyone's like, "That's an ion cannon turret." It's like, no, it's an ion cannon.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, it was. Yeah, because I remember that last year as well. However, another reason why the X-Wing community is one of the greatest communities, and why I'm not worried, is they had a black market prize wall, uh, where Louis from the UK brought tons of prizes. Other people contributed to it as well, and so you could turn in your prize tickets for very cool alt art cards, lock tokens. They had dial covers. They had like really nice some of the metal like quality. Um, Onyx Squadron from Australia had these amazing trading card packs that had pilot alt art pilot cards in there with this really cool neon design. Those were incredible, and they had range rulers, all these other awesome game components that you could use,
Yeah,
and
they're
that
farming
really added
tickets.
to it. Huh?
They were farming tickets, ticket
Yeah,
farming,
I
the
mean they
black
were
market.
exchanging tickets. Yeah, Louis at the end showed me he had like a gallon Ziploc bag that was full of tickets that he turned into gallon Ziploc bags of
Oh
dice and stuff like
Lord.
that. He's taken back to the UK for
Yeah,
their tournament scenes.
I love that. Well, yeah, I didn't get a chance to do any business with those gents, but I loved hearing
Oh,
about
I
that.
got so much stuff there.
Yeah,
It
it's
was
great.
it was incredible, and then also, I mean, not only that, there's a this really cool gift exchange in X-wing where I 3D printed some dial covers and some token holders, things like that, with 312 Squadron on them, and other people from around the world were giving me their art and stickers and a bunch of alternate art cards, and Dwight from the Natty Squadron was giving out. Uh, Laser cut bomb templates that have the little handles for so you can pick up your bombs without bumping everything.
Bumping everything. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so the
Yeah.
last thing I want to call out, and then I promise we'll look at LCQ data, is the overall structure of the judges. I just something I want to call out. I thought was very interesting. There were a lot more judges than I remember seeing the previous year. Um, and they were very much on top of it. I want to give them props. Chris Allen, kind of leading the judge team. They were very attentive. They were all over. It did not take long to get a judge call. There were some rules kind of put in place or suggestions, recommendations made that I thought were um, strange, I guess. One of them was recommending to all players to not help their opponents when it comes to marking, moving, touching, ships.
Hmm.
To call it to recommend calling a judge if anybody was going to make a clear maneuver that was at all close. Um, however, the judges were also instructed when making checks to not touch players' components or ships. So my first, judge call the first round, I had a bullseye check that was very close, and he kind of held the ruler 4 inches above the ship and made a judge call that way.
Ooh.
And I said, "Can we
Huh.
actually do it properly?" Because it was an important game, like every game in at Worlds.
Yeah.
And we marked the ships, but I had to do that twice. I had to ask the judge to properly check. The second time, the ship got bumped and then made the call anyways, which was by the judge, which happens, but it was inconvenient. I got to be honest. I'm not gonna come off like I'm bitching much about, but I did not like that. I did not like that the judges were kind of instructed and the players were instructed not to help and like
Yeah.
properly check things by holding things down. I get moving and scooching and bumping things as a part of the game. If a judge
Hmm.
does that, I've been a judge. I've done that before. It sucks, but it's easy to do. It happens. It's a mistake. I would
Hmm.
much rather the judge try to make the judge call correctly and accidentally mess up than to just half-ass a call that's important because they were not allowed to even properly check. You know?
Yeah.
Um,
No,
yeah.
absolutely.
Logistically, it seems odd. Like the game is so much about trying to be specific and correct about where you're placing things. Like you kind of need assistance from the other person in order to make it happen. And if the judges aren't allowed to touch your stuff, how are you supposed to make it happen in the first place?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, it's not me trying to, it sounds like I'm calling it out. I just think that that's not good.
No,
I don't
I
know.
mean, yeah. I will say it does feel like the judging this year has been a lot more strict than it ever has been
Yes,
in
it
the
was
past,
very
for
strict.
sure.
If you had an
Um,
alt art, you lost your game, like automatically forfeited, no matter if you had the official component or card with you,
I thought
easily.
on the first one I heard of people they got warnings.
Yeah, by
Um,
second game, you got forfeit.
right, second
By first
game, then
game,
it was starting to
yeah,
be game loss. But yeah,
I got
for the
pounded
first
by
round
judge.
was
Yeah,
warnings.
I got all these cool, I had Mauler, Backstabber, Tomax. I had
Hmm.
like a full alt art squad with the official card right behind it, sleeved. I showed the judge I had everything. He's like, I don't care, and it's
Yeah.
like, okay. Here's the
Jeez.
thing. Here's the thing. I get it. I get it.
Yep.
But also, we are at an event where everybody is giving each other alt art cards,
Yeah.
and in the history of the game that's been around for about 12 years, it's never been a thing that has been so strictly enforced. I know that technically you're not supposed to use it, but no one's prepared.
Because before, like even at Gen Con when they were going around and taking pictures, it was that as long as you had the other card, it was fine.
Yeah. Again, it's a Lucasfilm,
Yep.
thing and legal stuff. I get it.
Yeah,
I
right.
just think that
That
if
is
nobody's taking pictures, why can't I use my cool card that looks
right.
cool?
Because I did hear that it was not an AMG call, that this may have been a light, like a lawyer, like a legal
Yeah.
licensing call.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. But yeah, those are some things that I noticed just all around. The competitive aura, the tilt was very much there because people were not really helping each other. I like helping my opponent with stuff.
Hmm.
I don't know. That's just the way I play. Some people probably were fine with that. It wasn't the end of the world, but I didn't like that personally. So just some
Yeah.
things, some areas that maybe we could readdress, or improve, or maybe take another look at in the future. The alt art thing I get more so because you just
Oh
your
yeah,
hands tied. Your hands are tied. But when it comes to like not checking things properly and stuff like that, I think there's definitely an area to improve that for next time if we're
yeah,
if
for
we're
sure.
able to. But let's talk about the LCQ. You guys will see in the notes. I have the pattern analyzer, an amazing site. Shout out to Pattern Analyzer. Break down the data from the last chance qualifier. It includes the top squads. If you go to insights, you can see the faction distribution and performance and overall records per faction.
Yeah,
So we won't get too into the weeds, but the way the LCQ worked was that to get the world's invite to get into the main event, you played 4 games and you
for
had to go 4-0 to get in. One person went 3-1 and
hmm
number 7 seed and got in, but everyone else, you 4-0 was the
but
guarantee.
yeah, for I've just 4 games. And 108 people for the LCQ as well.
It was brutal.
It
It really
was.
was. Like I lost round one, and it took a lot to not be crushed by that. Like
Yeah.
Yeah,
after all
not having
the
another
prep.
chance is kind of crappy, huh?
Same
Yeah,
same for me. I lost mine on the last die roll of the game. Um, yeah, and then but it was fun after that. It's like, all right, now I'm on vacation mode.
Yeah, that's tough though, because usually you have a chance to you get one more chance.
Yep.
Um, even the main event, you could technically lose 2 games
Yeah.
and still make it to the next day. You just would have to win out from there. But I get it. The LCQ, it's just you just can't play as many games.
It
So
sure is the last chance.
it is the last chance. So Sam, you just talked about your first round, but overall, like, what was the competition like? What did you see a lot of? And then we'll match that with the data that we see, your anecdotal kind of experience. You don't have to do a bat rep for every game, obviously, but just like, how was it?
sure, yeah. Anecdotally, there was a lot of Empire. I faced Empire in my first round one. I faced Empire in round three. It was all over the place. A lot of new stuff. I ran Jendon. I faced Jendon round one in a Jendon rack esque mirror.
Oh,
Um, the my opponent in round three was playing new Tie Fighters. There was Empire everywhere, and I think the new SLs really pushed that.
yeah. The new SL's Battle Over Endor is proven super competitive. Um, y- just with most of the stuff that is in it. especially for Empire. Empire won out big time
Yeah.
with the new toys that they got. Um, I mean, so looking at the faction distribution for the LCQ, the biggest chunk of the pie is Empire. It's so Sam, you saw a lot of Empire. There was a lot of Empire. 27%, if I round up, 26.92 technically was Empire, and then not shocking, the other big slice of the pie, 25% is Rebels. Both of those two factions are the beneficiaries of Battle over Endor with the new stuff. And there we have it. There are those two, and then we get a really interesting distribution from there. Resistance making up the third largest at 14.4%, and then the Republic is number fourth played overall, which is really strange to me,
Mm-hmm.
13%. Then um, you get Scum, FO, CIS, and then for some reason is an undefined at 8.55%. Who would undefined be?
Undefined is just people that didn't submit their
Yeah,
World Better
okay. I was
Yeah.
gonna
lists.
say that it's just
Yeah,
probably a mixture of those four factions.
right,
Um,
exactly.
so total lists 28 players playing Empire, including you, Sam, 26 playing Rebels, and then it
Mm-hmm.
drops down to just 15 for Resistance, and then you get 14 for Republic. So that's a little bit, the percentage is a little misleading because 14 Republic lists is still a lot.
Yeah.
But again, when Rebel and Empire 28, 26 respectively, you definitely have to notice that. And then single digits for everybody else. First Order 5, Separatist 2, Scum 5.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And 2 of the 5 made it into the main event.
yeah. So and then looking at the faction record here, I find it really funny looking at just like the win rate because again this is skewed, but 8 games the Separatists they had the highest win rate with their just two lists reported,
5, 1, and 2, yeah.
That whopping
62.5.
70% win rate. Yep.
Yep.
That's just so funny. Scum and villainy. So why does this is honestly this data is very misleading because the less factions that play it, or the less people that play these factions, their win rate will be higher if they just did
Right.
okay. And so
Yeah.
Scum and Separatists being 5 and 2 respectively played, their win rates are the highest. 62.5 for Separatists with 8 games in, Scum with 20. 5 and 1 and 2 overall for Separatists, 11-1 and 8 for Scum with a 55% win rate. And then you do Resistance, Empire, Republic, in that order. And then at the bottom, because of the amount of games played, Rebels lost the most. They had a 43.69 or 43.7, just round up to 44%
Yeah.
win rate, 45 and 52.
I really
Yeah.
wonder, from a list building perspective for Rebels, if people were just not playing fully. Like, we're going to look ahead a little bit to the world's lists, and they are optimized. They are SLs, they are new stuff,
Yeah.
powerful stuff. I really wonder if people playing Rebels in the last chance qualifier were just like didn't have their best foot forward, I guess we'll say.
I think you kind of see the same breakdown as what was happening in Worlds, like in their faction
I think he's
pilot
right though. Like
wise.
it's if you go to, you basically in our live chat, District Foundry says it was basically LCQ was like a store champ. And when you take the
Yeah.
people who've won an invite and the list that they played to win their invite, and then you take the people who would just show up to a store champ with their lists, those lists overall will be more unoptimized than the folks who have
Yeah, I
their
mean
invites.
that is fair enough. First off, there's a lot more Han, or not Han, but a lot more Falcons like Landos in the Rebel list than there are in Worlds. So
Yeah,
there's
agreed.
30% or 31% of people in last chance qualifier were bringing the Falcon versus 20% in in Worlds.
Yeah, I think that's for Rebels at least. And I'm not sure if Pattern Analyzer breaks out the Falcon between Resistance and Rebels. Do we know about
Yeah.
that?
I'm
Oh,
looking at
between
LCQ
yes, it
Lando
does.
Resistance Falcon, for example,
Oh, it does.
was
Okay, excellent.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah,
was he
yeah.
was in one list though. It's just what it's
Sure,
telling me.
sure. Yeah,
But then like Cad Solus was um This is interesting. Yeah, like it's just what I'm looking at based on if I click show more, let me it shows a little bit more of the picture here. But a lot of unique pilots across lists. Like Vanessa Doza was in 3 instances. Faroff was only in 3 instances. Lima Kai only in three.
Yeah.
Bodica only in 1 instance. Morna in three. The count, I don't see anything getting above five. Well, we have Rear Admiral Chirno. Here we go. 12. Uh,
I will say,
10 minute 10 instances. 23 for Tomax. Jesus
yeah,
Christ.
if you want to talk about a pilot that had a monster weekend, both in the
Tomax.
LCQ and the Worlds, it is Tomax Bren from the
Yeah.
TBE pack. 23 out of 27 LCQ Empire players brought Tomax, and
He's
then
good.
looking
Yeah.
ahead,
Well, he's
a
a
very
staple.
similar ratio brought in
Yeah.
for Worlds.
I mean, I
Yeah,
think
He's
Sam,
he's
you
one
he's
and
of
I
the
were
stable.
best.
talking about
He's
that.
he's one of the best 3 points in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sam, you and I were like, I think Tomax is like, honestly, you just always put him in an Imperial list now, and that's pretty much what we saw is that
Every
Tomax is
Empire
going to be
list
an Imperial
should
list.
start with Tomax, hands down.
Yeah. And you know what the tech is against those lists is other Imperial lists. It's the best counter,
Yeah.
ironically. Yeah, Jendon 8 instances, including your list. So
Yeah, me down at 190 something.
yeah, it seemed like people in the
90
LCQ
something.
wanted to play new stuff, and they brought Rebels and Empire as made up a big more than 50% of the pie, and Rebels underperformed or just did not perform very well because besides Battle over Endor Wedge and like Gemmer, there isn't really anything that stands out as capable of dealing as much damage. Yes, we also have these B wings, which we'll talk about, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
versus the Jendons and the Soontiers, and the Scimitar ones that were all over the Imperialists from LCQ all the way through Worlds. Yeah. BOE Wedge though, very, very strong. Like lead.
I
Lando, the new
say,
Lando, I think some people tried, but he's kind of a difficult one to wrap your head around
yeah.
instantly.
One more thing I wanted to mention before the most striking the difference for me between the LCQ and Worlds before we wrap this up is 11% of Rebel lists in the LCQ had a Fang fighter versus in Worlds 44% of Rebel lists had a Fang fighter. So at
Huh.
Worlds there was 20 Rebel lists that had Fen Rao and 15 that had Bodica. Only one list in the LCQ had Bodica,
Hmm. Yeah. And just
and two had Fen Rao. Yeah.
looking at who made it into from the LCQ into the main event. Jammin, Benjamin, Ben Deddy, Mr. Jammin, based out of I believe upstate New York or that area. I met him for the first time. I've known him for years on Discord, and he brought his scum list that and won the whole thing, won LCQ with it.
Yep.
His SOS was very high, 2.06, although in a 4 rounder, SOS doesn't mean as much. But I just want to just do a very quick rundown of his list as he brought Cad Solus and Tor Fun in the Fangs. Cad had Cutthroat, Beskar, and Mandalorian Optics. Tor Fun had Fearless, Beskar, and Mandalorian Optics. So often setting up double modded shots, getting close with Fearless and also being able to take advantage of Concordia. Dace
Mm-hmm.
Bonearm, basically a really good and defensive punchy piece
Yep.
because of Lando and overtune modulators. He gets to basically reroll his dice almost at all times,
It's
spending
a
greens to
very,
reroll. Hard to
very
kill.
offensive dace. Yeah.
Yeah,
This-
and he can use it for defense as well as the Hawk can certainly die quickly. Two
Mm-hmm.
Y-Wings, Lee Mackay with a dorsal and plasma, and R. Lee's with ion cannon turret, plasma, and R5 TK, and then Bosk with and the Z95 with marksmanship and expert handling. That's a 6-ship list
Mm-hmm.
for Scum. Not often are we seeing six-ship lists. Usually it's just 5. But Ben has played this list with so much success online. It translated in person. It's good to see. And I just want to, in terms of Scum, shout out
Yes,
Cat
I
Patrick.
wanted to as well.
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead. What did you bring?
What an amazing story of trying to win LCQs with Scum the whole year and then finally making it to the LCQ and winning it and getting in on that.
Yeah, trying to win a World's Invite from the Store Champs.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, she was number 5 overall, so undefeated 4-0. And Kat is a big Afra fan and took Afra um with Lando as well for the rerolls. The Child BT1, Babu
Yeah.
Frick, Overtune Modulators, and then Old Tarok in the Fang Fighter with Fearless Crackshot, Beskar Reinforced Plating, Dirge with Fearless Proton Cannons, Contraband Cybernetics, Lima Kai with the Dorsal Plasmas, and Bosk as well with the Marksmanship and Deadman
Yeah.
Switch.
Yeah. And she's made huge strides as a player over in the last year. So
Yeah. Cat's
super
I just
excited for
played
her.
Cat yesterday on Nickel City X-Wing and lost to her by 3 points, but it was a great game.
Ooh.
She's a good player. The Patrick family knows how to play X-Wing, especially her
Yeah.
brother Crispy. Yeah, that's for sure. And then there's just some Empire. We got some Republic, but a lot of Empire here. Um we saw some Soontir get utilized. SSP Vader is kind of the staple Vader now because of the objective play. You need to kind of cover all your bases with objectives. SSP Vader's just better for that.
Yep.
His action economy, Tomax is in all of these lists.
More actions is better.
Yeah. So honestly, usual suspects beyond the scum list, in my opinion. But obviously, just a shout out to everybody who made it. Including a surprisingly Nathan Idy, who won Adepticon 2021, was in the LCQ. The dude is one of the best X-Wing players I know. He's
Yeah.
great.
Made
He
it in
made
at
it through, but I was
3-1.
just surprised to see him playing in the LCQ. Just goes to show, if just because you don't have a World's Invite doesn't mean you're bad. It's hard. It is very hard. I mean, look at some of the players in this field.
I was gonna say
Hard.
it was a very competitive season for sure.
Absolutely. X-Wing's hard, guys.
It is, man. It is hard. And it's draining with all the tokens and marking and ships, 10 plus ships on the board at once. It's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot. It just is what it is. Let's talk about you want to talk about the World Championship?
I
Move
do,
on.
and I think there's one very important thing that came out of the World Championships that I know that Andrew and I have talked about before, and I think is very important and everyone should care about. The dorsal turret versus R4 debate with Zori Bliss has been solved. Just take dorsal, guys. It's that simple.
Yeah.
No, that is definitely not the most interesting thing to come out of.
He's got jokes. That's a good
I got
one.
jokes.
You set that up very well. I was expecting a very spicy take, and then we hit.
I got them locked and loaded. Don't worry, they're just coming later in the meta section.
There's a reason why I scrubbed out round 1 of the LCQ, and the people who took dorsal turret made it into the top 16 cut. Yeah.
I mean, again, Tomax Bren just having a monster tournament is my biggest note for this thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
You guys might be surprised that we don't go in as much detail about everything in the world in the World Championship, and it's just because it's some of it's not surprising, and that's not me saying like, oh, boo-hoo, we shouldn't talk about it, but I just want to make sure that we talk about the big picture stuff and less about the specifics about every top cut player and everything like that. Faction breakdown wise, again, Empire Rebels are 1 and 2. Empire with the most, 22.8. Rebels at 22.2. And then we go Resistance at third as well. So going back, if I look at the Last Chance Qualifier and look at these breakdowns, it's the same. And then Republic is 4th. And then
Republic being 4th was a surprise.
Yeah. Resistance being 3rd is really wild to me. That's the one that I'm like, and it had the highest win rate.
Mm-hmm.
It had almost 50%.
It was the right call.
I don't think it's that surprising.
It's not surprising to me because
Yeah.
I still think that it is poised. It does very well against.
Quietly been a really good faction this meta.
Exactly. Yes.
It's such a quiet.
It does. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it does well against Rebels and it does well against Republic.
Yes, the biggest thing that came out for me from the Store Championship season before Endor came out was the arc of the metagame from arcs being really good to arcs being countered really effectively, and that was all resistance based.
Yeah, but well, as we'll spoil it, it didn't stop them.
It did not. Yeah,
it's hard to stop them.
It's hard to stop 4-point hyper efficiency medium base with double mods and high initiative all the way up
Yeah.
from 3, 4 to 5.
Yeah.
Turns out with selfless.
Turns out Ark's good.
And cherry tokens. Sorry, I'm not done. And veteran turret gunner rear arc shots as well.
Mm-hmm.
Am I missing anything else? Yeah.
Q7
So
Astromech,
or
that's what
the
you're
fact that
missing.
you can build your own flavor of arc list that we've seen.
Right.
There were 6 Republic lists in the top 16, and they're all kind of a little different.
oh god, I'm really afraid to look at how many I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna find oddball. Let me find
Well, they're all going to be an oddball.
It's all
Yeah,
oddball.
oddballs and all of
Oddballs.
them.
Yeah.
Is in
Well, I
every one
know,
of
I
them.
know. Oddball is an 88% usage rate, which is
Woof.
low to me. 44. 44 oddballs out
Be
there.
foolish not to take oddball, but you could do oddball with 7 ships. You could do oddball with 6 ships. You could do. Yeah, it looks like 6
End of
ships.
statement.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
but are those 6 ships going to be
We're trying to keep people playing the
Torrents?
game, Andrew.
Are they going to be Torrents? Are they going to be, Y-Wings? Are they going to be Z95s?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Yes.
The answer is
Exactly.
mostly all of
The
it.
answer is yes. I'm just looking at everything else here. These ship usages. Ooh, we got Juno Eclipse was in 2 lists. That's cool.
Well, we know one of those.
I didn't play that.
no, that was
That wasn't my list.
that was Nick's fun list.
Oh,
That was my
okay.
fun list. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
I'm
I do
so
like
sorry.
Juno, but no, it's
How
okay.
dare I
My
besmirch you now.
worlds list that lost by barely any points every game was the boys, Merrick, Tomax, and Vader, which is a super good list, but just like couldn't counter what I was dealing with as well as I thought it would. But anyways, just going back to looking at the rankings here, top performers. Um, there's a lot of Republic
hmm
and a lot of Empire, and and then there is a 4-ship scum list because Old Para is incredible, a wild man. Is super good at this game and has played it for a long time. And then just looking at this top 16 here, uh, a little bit of Resistance and a little bit of Rebels, but it's mostly Republic and Empire. And I want to shout out the winner of Worlds, Illy
Yeah.
from Germany. Young guy, good looking guy, got a good list. Got 2 Y wings in the list.
Yep.
And are his features important? Because hey, when you shout, you gotta be good looking to win X Wing. Ollie is a good looking guy. He won 2019. So.
Oh, so that's what I've been doing wrong.
Nicholas Scott is a good looking dude. Yeah, maybe that's what we don't have going for us. We just need like to beautify ourselves a little bit, and we'll just the dice rolls will go our way. Everything will be fine. It'll be easy. Just kick back and let your ships fly for yourself. You know,
The Venn diagram of attractiveness in X-wing players is just a circle. Let's just be real.
Here you go. Let's just let's gas everybody up at the same time. I think is the best way to do it. For
Perfect.
sure. So Illy brought a Republic list with the 3 Arc 170s, but then instead of having like Anakin or Padme or anything, he brought 2 Y wings, Matchstick with ion cannon turret and ion bombs, and Broadside with ion cannon turret and proton bombs. And it's a lot of health in this list. Let me do the math really quick. Hold on. So Oddball is 10 hit points. Wolf, that's 19. And then that's 24 for Matchstick. No, it's more than that. It's 27 because it's 8 hit points for the Y wings. And then Slider is 4, so that's 31. Broadside is another 8, so that's 39. And then Jag is another 9. So that's what, 47?
Yeah.
Or 48?
And you have 6 turns, really, 5 or 6 turns to get through all of that.
It's a 6-ship list. You got the 3 medium bases, you got ion tech, you got bomb tech. The only thing you don't really have is an ace, which the Republic list has demonstrated they don't need because they take up so much space.
More importantly, with the Y-wings, they have that anti-crit tech ability with the plated hull.
True.
Pilot card, so it does make them a little better at those objectives too, which we had seen last year.
These ion cannon turrets just I imagine, give you
So
so
much
much
reach.
Yeah.
control over the game.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You saw that in the final where the ion cannon turrets ionized Jorge's torrents, so
Oh, sure. Yes.
they weren't facing at Illy's
Yeah,
arcs
and
for
do all
two
the barrel
turns
roll
at
evade
the end.
BS.
Ah, yes.
Hmm.
Sorry, the barrel roll evade greatness that they get to do, not BS. Let's not be
Yeah,
salty. Uh,
but the
yeah,
ion cannon turrets were a critical piece as well. Ion is incredibly good. I firsthand learned, even in the Rebels list with Gina and Braylon, how good those ion cannons can be, those ion bombs can be as well.
yeah,
So
those B wings are wild, dropping
yeah,
bombs out
ion
the
control is
sides of
going to
their
be a thing.
bases.
Al-
Has
Also,
been.
I mean, the game before Illy's game came down to a road roll with Paul Heaver, so it was also just a chance that it could have been a rebel. It was a road roll away from it being a
Yeah, yeah.
rebel republic game.
That was a very close game. So Illy winning a road roll from the tie and then winning the whole thing is pretty
Hmm.
awesome. When scary, wild story. I mean, can you imagine your heart racing like that? Um, Not even having a chance to win versus winning at all because of a
Yep.
road roll is just so wild. The last year's Nicholas God and Andrew Cox had a tie at the end of their chance engagement game final match. Although this
Hmm.
was, I believe they were playing
Salvage.
Scramble or Salvage, or was it
They were
Scramble?
playing. They were playing.
They played Scramble in the finals. So,
Yes,
Yeah,
Scrambles in the finals.
Scramble.
They played
yeah.
Salvage against. It
Oh
was
yeah,
Salvage
against Paul.
against
Yeah.
Paul Heaver. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, yeah. So I want to give a shout out to the runner-up Jorge Castaneda, who is a
Hmm.
local. And by local, I mean like local to the United States, because we're talking about the countries right now in terms of worlds. I know Jorge fairly well. I've been to a lot of events with him. He's the sweetest guy. He's so good at the game. He's a great online presence and shows up to all the West Coast tournaments. Played him at LVO as well, and he beat the crap out of me with this exact list that he brought, which was triple arcs, kickback with the diamond boron, munitions failsafe SOC, axe with the deadeye shot barrage SOC, and boost with predator. So just the synergies
Sick.
of everybody taking tokens for each other and rolling
Yeah.
out of every shot, no matter what you roll. I would love to be able to roll blanks and not care and take tokens for my friends.
Yeah.
It's pretty
And
great.
defend them.
Jorge was representing Mexico though in Worlds.
I'm pretty sure doesn't he live in the United States?
I don't
I
believe
think he
so.
does.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he does. I mean, he's at all these. There's, I mean, unless the man makes a lot of money, he's at all these West Coast events. He's at Golden
Well,
State
I
Games.
mean, Mexico is not that far from California,
But
like
yeah, but
from
it
the
would be
West
easy to
Coast.
make all those events. So we'll do an editor's note to verify that information. I'm pretty sure. I thought Jorge was from Washington, but I will double check that information. We'll make sure you get that right. But either way, I know that Castaneda obviously is not a is a Mexican last name, so
Hmm.
we'll figure that out. But yeah, Jorge is super sweet guy. I will say, just ultimately, having Sam and I talked about this a little bit. For an entertainment value, it's not a very good matchup. Watching triple arcs versus triple arcs, Republic versus Republic, when there's 7 factions in the game and the entire meta has kind of gotten to this one final game in a season, and you get one faction with a lot of overlap. Not total overlap, but a lot. And this is no knock to either player bringing the list that got them there. Absolutely
Hmm.
not. But it's kind of we would have wanted a little bit of a different matchup just from the entertainment stream side of things, like Republic versus Rebels or just any other faction besides Republic. So that's it would have I think this proves a point in some ways, them facing off against each other with, triple arcs versus triple arcs, that, hey, 4 point arc 170s are not only very good, but they're, maybe worth looking at adjusting and nerfing to an extent for when we get our next points change. Because you don't want, as a game designer, I wouldn't want to see the same faction play against each other at a final table. It's possible and it happens, but I wouldn't want that when I'm designing for 7 factions. I would have hoped to see Rebels or Empire with some BOE in there, as we had predicted. We didn't get that. We got this. It is what it is. But that's just my observation. I just think that, I think it proves the point either way. But yeah, what do you guys think?
It's an interesting narrative for arcs just over the course of this tournament season. The fact that it came down to this at the end, I think, is fascinating. I agree from a viewership standpoint that, like, and I said this, I'm a bit of a freak. I enjoy arc mirrors. They are interesting to me, but that's from a minutia and tactics standpoint, not a like, oh, it's fun to watch these giant spaceships clash against each other sort of thing. So I found it fascinating. I think that the breakdown, like Jorge's list, is very cool to me and was part of my testing gauntlet. And I think it's going to be, assuming nothing happens to the arcs moving forward, I think it's going to be a big part of our metagame.
Yeah.
But I I don't know. I tend to think that from a game design standpoint, having one thing that you're gonna have one thing be the best thing no matter what you do, and having arcs as the best thing is not the end of the world. It's a simple, not simple list, but it's a straightforward list that is trying to accomplish straightforward things. It's easy to grasp from a new player perspective, and it's got a lot of depth and nuance to it from a veteran player perspective. Arcs are fine. Hot take.
Uh,
They
uh,
can be destroyed.
oh yeah, I mean, here's the thing. There's a difference between saying, "Oh, well, that you could kill them." It's like, well, yeah. I mean, anything can die, and they can certainly die. Don't get
Yeah.
me wrong. The plasma torpedo tech is super good against them, critting them. A lot of the damage deck is not very nice to them. There's a lot of things. But I think it would be a disservice to just not change absolutely anything after this. After Worlds with these guys, I think oddball could go up to 5,
Yes.
and you could encourage a different type of list building, because the problem, I disagree with the part of what you said, Sam, because right now people are kind of just pushed into, you should do 3 arcs plus 8 points of something else. Like, it's kind of like the obvious thing, at least 2 arcs, but in a lot of, in most cases, 3.
I don't
Elias brought
disagree.
2. So you don't have to, but I really want to get to the point where, if we nerf everything in the game, like everything just becomes a little bit more expensive, then you really actually have to think about the list that you're building. And I think we've gotten away from that a little bit with certain factions. With Empire Rebels, with the new stuff, it's not that way because there's new stuff. But with, like, Republic specifically, I think it's the easiest culprit to pick on. Becomes very apparent as to what you should be putting in your list, that it's not even interesting. It's boring. It's like, the list building is just a formality. You just to print out your list to hand in. It's not like you're actually really doing anything.
Oh.
Except Illy brought his Y wings, which is cool because he actually list built, but still 3 arcs.
Yeah, I mean, right. There's a lot of 3 arcs plus something. I mean, there was also a 7 ship Republic list that was doing well in Worlds 2. Didn't make the top 16, but it did show that there are other ways to build the faction. I think right now there's just some pieces in Republic that are undercosted. If you can have, as much health as the Republic faction offers, with
Yeah,
multiple
that's the other thing.
choke-ins and evades and stuff too, just how beefy it is, I think,
Yeah,
just means that it needs to go up. I mean,
yeah,
I'd say oddball is the number one offender here, because
yeah,
when you really only have 5 or 6 turns to get through all of that, um, oddball forcing you to spread the damage around, um,
yeah,
when you lead with Jag or Wolf, is going to be the main culprit in that, because the one thing that you can't afford to do anymore is spread that damage around, and this is a hyper efficient list at doing that. At the same time, it has access to control pieces. It has access to some pretty heavy hitting pieces as well. So I do think in the future that oddball should go up points at the very least. Um,
yeah. Extra shield, target lock ability with red focus, so you can get double modded shots if he bumps, which is so
yeah,
wild. It's very good. VTG, born for this. Selfless, which isn't even Republic talent.
right.
Rebels.
Yeah, that's I mean, the selfless is the main culprit in the list for sure.
Yeah. So I think the oddball nerf is enough to
Hmm.
me. Um, yeah,
Yes.
it's just, they could just, as somebody who plays a faction that is a little bit simpler, it's so wild to see what those things can do.
Yeah.
Spending, being able to spend each other's target locks, spend each other's tokens, multiple instances. Um, in one die roll, you can spend multiple tokens at once. And the other thing is, I
And you get
honestly, one thing
lots.
that would make Born for This a little bit more fair to me is if the ship using Born for This took a strain instead of the ship giving the token. The ship using it takes the strain.
Yeah.
I would think would be a much more reasonable way to have designed that, because then it gets punished for taking the token, which I think is fair. I think it's right.
Yeah. That cat's way out of the bag by now.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean that's
we are
besides the point.
stuck
I'm
with
just
what
saying,
we've
like,
got.
I think we're stuck with what we got. I think they've made some mistakes with the design space of some of these things where they just don't stop. They just kind of keep giving a good thing, good things. And we've covered this before. It sucks, but we deal with it. We have it now. It
Mhm.
exists, not changing it. So, but yeah, it's just one of those things where it's certainly, I don't know if you go as far as to say abused, but it's proven itself to be incredibly difficult to overcome, and it is a world championship caliber
Absolutely.
archetype.
Because
So
it is something that you really have to design around when you're building a list.
yeah.
Is will it be able to do enough damage to this list to win games?
Yeah, and they're capable of not only soaking up damage, but they do a lot of it in the process as well.
That's right.
And are
Um,
surprisingly good in objective
Yes.
formats. Like
Yeah, I mean,
the
all the medium bases
yeah,
really can dominate some games.
yeah.
yeah. So just doing a quick count here. The top, let's see, 1, 2, 3. Okay, the top 8 overall. I'm gonna count really quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 24. 25, 26, 27 as standardized pilots in the top 8. It's a lot. Standardized pilots are they're meta warping. They're
They're so
popular. They're
good.
good. They're so good.
They're
They're the
incredible.
future.
They're, they are the future. I personally, want a balance between the two in terms of list building, where you customize your own pilots and then have some standardized.
Hmm.
I am not interested in playing a game where you can only play standardized cards. I will probably stop playing X-Wing if that actually happens. Not to say that I think that will happen.
Yeah,
AMG
I
to my
don't foresee
face has
that
said they're
too.
not interested in that,
Right.
but I'm not interested in that. I think that's bad for the game if that were the case. But they are very good and they have their place in the meta. And in a lot of cases, like in Jorge's list, all but one ship were all standardized. So,
Mhm.
yeah, power levels there for sure.
Yeah, that
And
that
then
was one of the big takeaways I had this weekend.
yeah, Siege of Coruscant battle over Endor are proven very strong. Tomax has his place in every Imperial list, as we've
Yep.
said. Um, I wanted to go over. I'm trying to find. Here we go. Duncan Howard's list. Duncan Howard, one of the best X-wing players anybody knows. If you've heard that name, you expect him to be at top tables in every event, and he did
Hmm.
a great job playing at Worlds. He made top, I think it was top 16 is when he lost. Um, or yeah, top 16. And he brought the list that you brought, Sam, correct? It was the 4-ship Imperial, Vader, Jendon, Tomax, but you had Vizier, he had Faroff. Is that the difference?
Correct. That's the biggest difference. He did not take Palpatine, and I watched at least one of his games and saw that how he used Farroff and was very impressed. Obviously, like the skill ceiling of this list is really high and the floor is really low. But Farroff gave you or at least gave him a higher floor than Palpatine did, or Vizier Palpatine did.
Yeah.
He was able to use Faroff as a actual objective grabbing piece, a brawler, just an all rounder that really shone, at least in the limited amount of time that I watched him.
Yeah. 000 Faroff gets in your face, takes a usually, if you don't want to give him a calculate, so you take a stress and then you get picked apart by 2 ships that are almost never stressed.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a lot of damage. So it's SSP Vader, Colonel Jendon, and the TIE Defender at I6 can fire that 5 dice proton cannon, double modded if he spends a shield against that 5th die. TBE Tomax, of course, and then, as you said, bear off the 000. Um, But yeah, so looking at just the overall spread in the top cut, again, I'm not going to get too too detailed. Besides Old Para's list, which we'll talk about, it's it's a lot of like majority Republic, a few Empire, and then like it looks like a resistance list, two resistance lists.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Old Para from Poland brought a 4-ship scum list headed by Fen Rao with clan training, Beskar reinforced plating, and shield upgrade. So a more defensive Fen Rao, but still can set up double modded shots if he gets close on the initial maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
Then he's the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Mandalorian is really held back by just a low loadout value. He only has 10 loadout, but
Yeah.
he took the child Razor Crest, which he hid or rather false transponder codes under, and contraband cybernetics.
That
Um,
extra force though really gives it
yeah,
some staying power. Oh,
and
another
the ability
defensive build.
and
Yes.
his ability, yeah, like his ability to if while he defends or performs an attack, if there is one or more enemy ship in his front arc at range, or if he is in the front arc of one, I think it's two or more, or is it one or more? I can't remember.
It's two.
Two or more.
It's multiple.
He gets
Yeah.
to change an eyeball or a blank to an eyeball, and so with the
Yeah.
child, he can roll. He can get out of a lot of shots and stay more defensive. Um, I commentated on a game with GSP where he was going up against a rack list against the guy who just won Sith Taker Open, Corinto, and he false transponder coded the Decimator and proceeded to do 13 damage to the Decimator in a single engage with a 4-ship list. It was ridiculous.
That'll
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, that will do. He also had Dirge with proton cannons, marksmanship, and codes as well. So 2 jamming techs in that list. One that hides until he decides to reveal it. And Cad Bane also in the rogue class with Cura, so he can ignore obstacles if he has it locked. Synced lasers for the 3rd attack die, ion bombs for that control, and Mark Sable closure, which works with Cura as long as you fly through that obstacle. You can strain someone at range 1 to 2 in your front
Yeah.
arc.
And definitely was utilizing that strain quite a bit.
Yeah. So Old Para also made top 16. Um, but yeah, I mean, overall, taking a step back, looking at everything, there's a few things that I can confidently say. Siege of Coruscant has remained a top tier meta choice, and has performed. It just continuously performed at every tournament, that Republic it's been at. It's been there. Um, Battle over Endor not only was new and exciting, but was used
Yes.
to a high level, with the B wings that cheap 4 and 5 point B wings that have triple
Mm-hmm.
mods. They can have focus, evade, and target lock to be able to fire double modded proton torpedoes and homing missiles if they choose to do so, as long as they have each other at range 1 to 2 and they're stressed. So and dropping bombs out the
And they
sides of
drop
their
bombs out the side.
yeah, which is incredibly difficult to counter in terms of flying against
Absolutely.
it. They are really hard to deal with when they get to do that. They're very good, and
They're very
so we'll
good.
be seeing a lot of them.
Also, new wedge is also very good.
Yes, new wedge setting he can find ways to get double modded pro torps.
And also is just a lot more defensive because he gets the focus token when the attack hits. So one of the downsides of playing the non-standardized wedge is that you use all your mods on offense, but it can burn down quickly. This wedge stays on the board a lot longer. Also has a shield upgrade.
I really think coming out of BOE as well, Gemmer Sojin is
Hmm.
probably one of the most impressive pieces I've seen on the board.
Same.
Not splashy, just efficient.
Mhm.
Really powerful,
Yeah.
impossible to kill. Like this card is I think my pick for like most impactful thing coming out of BOE moving forward. We're gonna see a lot of rebels with Gemmer.
Yeah. Gemmer definitely is hitting above his weight for sure.
Um,
The bullseye adding an eyeball result, there's been a number of times where I've seen
he's doing
people.
damage.
Yeah,
Oh, I thought he was just there to never die and play objectives. I didn't know he was actually
he
doing
can
damage.
do both.
It's all value.
He can
Yeah.
do objectives. I've also seen it because that bullseye shot, turns any 2 die shot into a 3 die one.
Especially
Um,
when there's a lot of arcs running around.
mm-hmm.
Medium
Yeah.
bases.
Yeah, it's true. Medium base is easier to get in bullseye. But yeah, I just want a quick addendum. I learned that Jorge is he was representing both he represented Team Mexico in the XTC, but he is from the Seattle area of the United
Okay,
States.
gotcha. So representing Mexico, but lives in the U.S. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Um but yeah, so just overall was a good Worlds. Is before we kind of wrap up, I know that this is going to be a slightly longer episode because this is a big thing to talk about. Um, there were some, I don't know if I'd say drama, but I check out the X-Wing subreddit sometimes because I have Reddit now. I used to never use it. Reddit is a weird place. It's I wouldn't take everything you see on there for face value. Take it with a grain of salt. But some people were, I'm gonna say, concerned that X-Wing was not on the roadmap in the panel discussion that Atomic Mass Games had um, at Worlds. Where, just for reference, a year ago during their panel, they spoiled the Store Champ kit and some potential future product, including Battle Over Endor, which we just got for this event.
Yeah.
So it s- obviously the game's not dead. You see how many people showed up. There's certainly even if the game were to be quote unquote complete, the community is going to keep this game going at a very healthy level
I
for
mean,
a
at least
while. I'm not
yeah,
concerned about that,
at
but I
least
am
400 people.
starting to realize that at the very least, X-Wing TMG is not the priority for AMG as of right now. It's not at the forefront of the most important thing that they're looking at in terms of business and sales. And obviously, if it were, then they would have talked about it to some extent at Worlds. They didn't. So, what do you guys think that means, Sam? I guess I'll ask you first.
I'm not panicking. I think that we just had a major release that shook up Worlds to a huge extent. I think that while it was a long time coming, we didn't have a release for a little while from the Bombers up to Endor. We still got Endor. We still got Worlds or Endor 4 Worlds. I'm not panicking. We have more stuff probably in the pipeline. Like there is, they are not killing the game. I don't know. I look at all of the panic around X-Wing, and I'm okay to let AMG steer the ship for a little while. They've done a pretty good job. I know that's controversial, but I'm impressed.
Yeah, I don't feel that I mean, yeah, that take I guess is controversial, but I don't I feel similarly. I will say that AMG is just really bad at PR. Like
Yeah.
they're not good at communicating with their fan base. From what I saw at Worlds and from what I've seen online too, is that I believe that X-Wing is probably their most played Star Wars game uh out of all of the different war games that they have. The one thing I saw was that the X-Wing community and the X-Wing player base was so strong this year more than anything. And my I have no idea what's going on at AMG. My theory is that X-Wing is in such a good place right now that they might feel that they're not worried about it because the community and is so strong there that they can focus on building new communities elsewhere. Um, which is why we're not seeing anything new. It would be nice if they were just at least hinting at down the road, we're going to have something coming up. Um, but no, I don't see X-Wing going anywhere. I think X-Wing is in a far more stable place. I feel better about it now than I did even coming through last Worlds when they had announcements of new products and things coming out.
Yeah,
Anecdotally as well, I'll say, like, I'm a new player. I've encountered a lot of new players, especially
Hmm.
at Adepticon. Like there are people that are gravitating towards the game again, and I think that is because of the fact that the community is so good and the game is healthy. I think that's a very
Yeah.
good point, Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm for those of you that m- listen to this later, I've been live streaming our recording sessions for folks who want to watch us on Twitch, which you guys can catch us usually on Tuesday nights or Wednesdays. We'll every other week we'll be recording our episodes. But I'm getting just usually don't reference the chat in our recordings, but for interesting from Jared, who says his friendly local game store told him that all Star Wars X-Wing SKUs were canceled for this year, and that 2 prequel starter sets showed up on the SKU list a few weeks before they were listed as canceled. So
Really?
I am reporting just the
Huh.
facts, or I believe the store. I don't think they'd make
Hmm.
that up. Um, that's obviously there's no way to frame that in a way where, oh well, that just means there's more product coming. That sounds like they're not releasing product for X-Wing this year, new product rather. If or there's significant delays that would result in waiting almost a year to get anything. So, um,
Yeah.
you know, that's
I
obviously not a good sign. If that's true, I can't confirm that now that that is true, but that's what he's heard. So,
I think that might be okay. Like it's not great. You always want new things and stuff too, but I'm
well,
I'm
if
all
their
right
starter
with
set's getting canceled, that's bad. That's definitely not
sure.
good.
Oh yeah. No,
Yeah, because
absolutely.
those are for other factions we don't have starter sets for.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, which just means again they don't necessarily have faith in the sales side of it right now for the game. I don't think the game is making AMG a lot of money, or Asmodee rather, the parent company. I mean, it's a lot of these games they don't have a high profit margin. So is this surprising to anybody? No.
Not really.
Um, hello to, again, referencing the chat here, usually don't, but hello to Gold Squadron who's rated us after their podcast has ended.
Hey.
Again, for in case those who missed it, there is a report, a rumor, a source that Star Wars X-wing SKUs have been canceled for this year, at least in the near future. Can't say it's for the whole year. I also don't have, it's a friendly local game store that has indicated that they've seen some new SKUs for starter sets for the prequels come up. Jared is the one in the chat that let me know about this, and that they were canceled. So, this isn't me, for those of you just jumping in. This isn't doom and gloom time, but it's just we're talking about both sides here. We're talking
Yeah.
about the
No.
optimistic side about what we just experienced. We're talking about things that we're hearing, or even facts. It wasn't on the roadmap. The SKUs have been, potentially sounds like some have been canceled, or maybe still significant delays in production. Um, so
Yeah, I mean
yeah,
I mean it is I think a reality that it can be very just frustrating to be a X-Wing player at times when there is, a massive lack of communication. It's really the lack of communication that's the issue that's spawning a lot of like these rumors and stuff.
yeah, and
Um and it would be easier just to know to set expectations one way or another.
yeah, there was somebody, again, we're talking about Reddit, who had decided to go on AMG stream and say, "Is this it? Is it over? Is there anything for X-wing?" And AMG responded saying, "We don't have anything planned for X-wing." I said, "Well, is that mean it's dead?" And they, I think they muted him, timed him out, or banned him. I don't remember. AMG had to deal with a lot of people, some people being toxic about the state of X-wing in their private Discord. I never joined their Discord, and they had to ban a lot of people. They did that to a decent amount of people in their Twitch chat as well before Worlds. Um, Honestly, I would feel really bad if I joined one of their streams, asked, "Do you have anything about X-Wing?" And even if it's annoying for them, or they've seen it too many times, I would hope that that wouldn't warrant me getting banned for just mentioning one of their games. I don't think that's the case, but there's a narrative out there that
Yeah.
AMG has had trigger happy when it comes to people asking about X-Wing. I do think some people maybe twisted a little bit to sound like they were
Yeah.
super innocent in the way that they asked it. It sounds like sometimes people, usually when you get banned, you do
You've
something
done
to
something
deserve
to
it.
deserve it, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they muted the whole question and answer. I wasn't there. I don't know. I'm not gonna say I don't believe you, but I do think, as Andrew pointed out, the communication style and approach for Atomic Mass games is by far and away the thing that they are so bad at.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't hold back when being honest about this. They are bad at doing that. And I think to get some better standing with the people who still love the game and are playing, which is a lot of people, by the way, tons. They need to improve, and they need to, they've admitted when I interviewed them that they have some areas they need to improve. They didn't call out, communication specifically, but it is clear that I think we have cut them enough slack now that it's time that they improve that. We hold them to a high standard, because this is a Star Wars IP we're dealing with. This isn't, a backyard, volunteer game designer kind of thing. This is a big thing. It's the big leagues, folks. Star Wars is the big leagues.
This isn't your grandfather's a plastic
It's plastic
spaceship
space
game.
game. Yeah. Um, but yeah, so it's just interesting to talk about. Do I think the game here's my take. I know I just ranted and rambled. My take is, do I think the game is dead? No.
Heck no.
Do I think the game will have more product in 2024? I'm leaning no right now. I'm leaning, but I
Yeah,
can't say
same.
definitively. But I'm leaning no. Is that okay? Do we need new ships? No, I don't think we do need new ships. Do we need new pilots and stuff, or maybe some new upgrades? I think that would be nice.
I
I
mean, I
would
was
like
gonna
some,
say,
new more pilot card packs or whatever.
yeah, I
Graduate stuff
was.
from extended into standard, like a Star Viper for Scum, for example, or the
Mhm.
Lambda shuttle. You could do stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I was yeah, absolutely. I was gonna say, I think we're at a point where if we go a year without new ships, that's fine. I thought there was some hope with the unconventional warfare. The fact that they were even designing like new side event games and new ways to play X-wing was pretty promising for me. When I was doing the unconventional warfare, I did see a lot of potential with that as a way to augment the current scenarios and objectives. So if there's scenarios and objectives, but you get bonuses for universal bonuses for bringing a certain type of ship or per faction, or you could create a series of universal bonus effects that you randomize in conjunction with the objectives could lead to a lot more interesting and innovative gameplay, things like that.
Yeah,
And I think that would also do just as much of a job of spicing up X-wing as a new products.
yeah. I'm seeing from the audience points changes. I think having a schedule for points changes, if the game is not marked as quote unquote complete, aka they're still going to support it, which I have reason to believe that they're going to do that. I have no reason to believe they're not. With Armada getting a store champ kit, we'll hear about X-wing soon. There will be a Worlds for X-wing. It would be nice to be like every 2 months, or every 2 months, twice a year, we will have a points change around this time. Um, I just feel like sometimes with X-wing, things have kind of just been knee jerked into action. All the way back to when the game transitioned to 2.5, things were just kind of thrown against the wall and be like, here we go. Here's all the changes. Points change right before Worlds. Hey, Battle of Endor points are up, but there's also other points changes. It's like, whoa, I just want my expectations. Like, I just want to know what to expect. I don't know if that's unreasonable, but it's certainly not something that I can afford to do now.
Yeah, even
Um,
even if it's like little tweaks like we did before Worlds.
I was
yeah,
gonna say I liked the little tweaks change. The big sweeping change that we had last year, where the arcs went down to 4, was fascinating and led to some a cool tournament season. But Han was too oppressive, and there was a lot that was not super enjoyable about it. So I enjoyed the tweaks.
yeah,
I don't know that I would want like often frequent heavy points changes.
Yeah.
That would make the game
well, I mean, we haven't we
difficult.
barely we got 1.25 points changes in the last year.
It's true.
So
Yeah.
I think once every 6 months would be great. That's a long time. 6 months. But that's just me. That's on my wish list. I think a lot of people I've talked to, they want everything to just be more expensive. And I think that really helps to help, it makes the game healthier with list building and makes us think about different things that maybe we don't play as much. with the scenario packs, I think it kind of gives them a really interesting space to live in this game, as we've seen them be very popular. Battle over Endor is far and away the most competitive scenario pack to play
Yeah.
at a tournament. There's just so many good options and efficient, fun pieces to use.
Yeah.
Way more than we've even seen in Siege of Coruscant for both factions and Battle of Yavin. You know, yeah. Anything else, guys, before we wrap up here?
Arc's good. That's my note.
Soontir Fell is
Yes.
busted in half and is very
Excited
fun
to
to fly.
excited to play more with Soontir this year. That's my takeaway too.
This week I really want to try the Rebel side. I want to try Tycho. It looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah, with
Uh,
rockets, reloaded
yeah.
rockets.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening to this episode of our Worlds coverage for episode 14. This episode is brought to you once again by Strata Strike. You can go to their Etsy page and you can buy so many different things, including amazing gaming components for X-Wing, like incredible precision wood carved template trays, templates, tokens, and more. You can use discount code 312 Squadron. That's 312 capital S, lowercase QUADRON for 15% off your entire purchase, not just for X-Wing components. If you want to catch replays from World's Gold Squadron podcast, my crew over at GSP did an incredible job covering everything from the LCQ to final table. So I strongly encourage you to go over to GSP to watch their VODs, the replays of those games. They will be up on YouTube in not too far from now, from when this episode airs. You can also make sure you follow us on Twitch to catch us live, including for our live podcast recordings, edited content on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and jump into the conversation with us in Discord. Thank you to our patrons, lastly, for making this possible. You guys are amazing, really helps us continue to do what we do. You can learn about how to become our biggest supporter in the episode description. We cannot do it without you. My name is Nick Sperry.
And I'm Andrew Kouba.
And I've been Samuel Graebner.
And thank you all for listening.
And see you next season.